Done, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So, good afternoon, children. We'll continue with the poem we were doing yesterday, which is The Slave's Dream by H.W. Longfellow. So, this poem is an anti slavery poem. The main theme of this poem is an attack on the system of slavery, which was prevalent in Africa, where the whites used to make the black people their slaves, and the slaves had no right over their life. They had no freedom of their own. They could not decide. They had no right of choice, or they could not decide anything. They had no freedom at all, and if a slave disobeyed, they were treated very badly in those days. And therefore, the poet is trying to, through this poem, he's trying to evoke the reader's emotions towards the life which the slaves led, and he's trying to through portraying the physical condition of the slave, and his and through his dream he's trying to show us how freedom is the most important thing in life, and how a slave led his life in this kind of bondage, and how he yearned for death finally, so that his soul can be liberated out of this miserable life. So instead of longing, his longing for freedom cannot be fulfilled in this life because he has been enslaved, and therefore he wishes for death, so that death can liberate his soul out of this bondage. Okay. So, as I told you in the first stanza, the poet describes the physical condition of the slave. In the second stanza, the poet is describing the dream of the slave. He is almost semi-conscious, in a semi-conscious state, and in that state he dreams about his native land. So the second stanza is about how the poet visualizes himself once again as a king, because he was a king of his king of one of the tribes in Africa before he became a slave, and therefore he visualizes himself as a king again, and he rides on his horse through the along the banks of the lordly river Niger, and we come to know about his native land and how he was a king before he became a slave. And in the third stanza, we come to know about the slave's family. Here also, the poet is trying to evoke your emotions of the reader by telling us how the slave had a loving family and they are no longer with him. Okay, so his queen, that is his wife, and his children who loved him so much are no longer with him, and he dreams about them. In his dream, he is again united with his family again, and therefore a small tear burst from the slave's eyes, and the teardrop fell into the sand. And it's almost creating an image. The poet is creating an imagery as if to evoke the pathos of the reader. Okay, and sympathy of the reader towards the slave's condition, that he is not even having his family around him, whom he loved so much, and the family loved him so much. So he is not even united with his family. And then again in the fourth stanza, the poet shows us that in his dream the slave is riding at a furious speed on his horse. And why is he doing that? Because he's in his subconscious mind also, he's yearning for his freedom, to be liberated out of this life. He wants to break the shackles of slavery and this bondage in which he has been chained. His body is also changed, so he wants to break all the shackles and be a free man again. And therefore the furious speed of the slave while riding on his horse also is symbolic of the freedom which he is looking forward to, which he unfortunately will not be able to gain in this life. The only way out from this life of slavery for the slave was death. There was no other way out. And he is longing through his past, by visualizing his past days in his dream, he is fulfilling his dream of achieving freedom. So let us start with the fifth stanza now. Before him, like a blood-red flag, the bright flamingos flew. From morn till night he followed their flight O plains where the tamarind grew, till he saw the roofs of Kafir huts and the ocean rose to view. So while he was riding on his horse in the fourth stanza, you know that he was riding furiously on his horse, and his bridle reins were made of gold, and with a noise, his sword was making a noise when it was hitting against the horse's side. So now it is saying before him, like just in front of him, just like a flag, blood red flag. Why is the symbol, why is the phrase blood red used here? Blood red, red color symbolizes energy, enthusiasm, power, strength. This is what red color symbolizes. And therefore, also you will see that before him, like a blood red flag, the bright flamingos flew. So flamingo is a kind of a bird which is red in color and it has thin legs. So in front of the slave, while he was riding his horse, these flamingos were bright red flamingos were flying. And therefore, this is a simile, like a blood red flag. So like word has been used. So therefore, it is a simile. The flamingos, the birds have been compared to a red flag. Also, it is symbolic of the fact that because the slave is following the birds, he is following the flight of the birds. So it signifies that some in a war also, if you see, sometimes the flag is used as a point where to guide people. So these flamingos were sort of guiding the king through his ride over his own kingdom. Through his own kingdom, he was riding, and these flamingos were guiding the slave. So this comparison of the flamingos to the flag has been made here. So it is a simile here. The figure of speech is a simile where the flamingos, birds, have been compared to the blood red flag, a red colored flag, because flamingos are also red in color. So he follows the flight of the flamingos and continues to ride from morning till night. He followed their flight, means he continues to ride from morning till night. He has been following the flight of the flamingos and he has been riding through his entire kingdom. So this is an imagery in this stanza. We come to know about how he is roaming around his entire kingdom, following the flight of the birds. And this also is symbolic of how free he was before he became a slave. He was free to go anywhere he wished to go. He was free to roam around his entire kingdom, but now he's not free to do so. Where all did he go? Over plains where the tamarind grew. It's just a description and imagery that the poet is creating, an imagery that he is following the bright red flamingos and he is crossing these plains where the tamarind trees are growing till he saw the roofs of Kafir huts. Kafir is referred to African huts, maybe the huts of his own people, his tribe. He is passing while he is going through the plains where the tamarinds are growing. He saw the roofs of the huts of his own tribe. And this is also symbolic of the poet yearning for his home. He is also looking forward to be in his home. So these huts are symbolic of the poet's longing. He's longing to be at home also. Okay. And the flamingo's flight, as he's following the flamingo's flight, it is symbolic of his longing to be free to roam around wherever he wants to, but he cannot do so. And the ocean rose to view. And now the ocean, what is the ocean symbolizing? Write down. The ocean symbolizes open, vast, open space. So he is longing for a vast open space where he can move around freely. Rose to view means till the ocean became visible. He kept on riding, following the flight of the flamingos from morning till night. And he crossed the plains where the tamarind trees were growing. And he saw the roofs of the people of his tribe, huts of the people who belonged to his tribe. And finally, he stopped when he saw the ocean and the vast space. An ocean occupies a vast open space, and that is why the poet has used the word ocean, because he wants to um, create an image in our mind that the slave is longing for those plains, those vast open plains, the vast sea, the vast ocean. Why? Because it is symbolic of open space, free space. Nature is free. Man was also born free. And that is what the slave is looking forward to, his freedom. When he is a slave, when he is a bonded labor, and then he is imagining all these free spaces. Okay. And the next stanza, the sixth stanza, is also a continuation of what of the dream the slave is having about his land. It is a continuation. Let me read the stanza first. At night he heard the lion roar and the hyena scream and the river horse as he crushed the reeds beside some hidden stream. And it passed like a glorious roll of drums through the triumph of his dream. Very important stanza again. Now the slave, first of all, in the previous stanza, the slave was having visions of his land, the land maybe where he was the king of. And now at night, he is close to a forest and he is now hearing sounds more than the sights. At night, what you hear is sounds. So again, these sounds are also screaming to him, telling him about freedom, because the animals are free in the forest. They can scream, they can roar, they can cry out. So they are also free. That is also symbolic of your freedom to speak up, your freedom to move around any place was in the fifth stanza. Sixth stanza, your freedom to speak, to be able to speak your mind, to be able to say what, to be able to cry when you want, to be able to laugh when you want. All these things were not available to the slave. And therefore, he is hearing all these sounds in his dream. So at night, he is hearing the roar of the lion. He heard the lion roar and the hyena scream. The hyena was screaming, the lion was roaring. All these sounds of animals at night while he was passing through the forest also remind him that how free they are. They can express themselves freely. And the river horse is actually referring to the hippopotamus. So, river horse, yes, it is referring to the hippopotamus. It is a Greek term for the hippopotamus. And the river horse also, while he was walking, he was crushing the reeds. Reeds are water plants which grow along the bank of the river. So when he heard the river horse crushing the reeds under its foot, it looked beside some hidden stream. He imagined that the river horse must be, I can hear the river horse crushing the reeds. That means he must be behind some stream which I cannot see. The stream was hidden from view of the slave, and it passed like a glorious roll of drums to the triumph of his dream. Glorious roll of drums, it refers to the beating of the drums. So the beating sound of the drums when whenever there is a celebration in a family, or whenever there is something like somebody has won something, a team has won a match, or when we see a cricket match, you see a lot of beating of drums. And similarly, in those times when there was to be an announcement made, or there was a celebration of victory, or a celebration as such, festival as such, we beat drums. So the sound of these animals has been reminded him of the beating of drums. So please underline like a glorious roll of drums. Again, this is a simile because like a glorious roll of drums. Okay, so like word is used. So what is the glorious roll of drums? The beating of drums being compared to, the beating of dreams is being compared to the various sounds these animals are making. The sounds of these animals reminded the slave about the beating of drums, signifying victory, signifying celebration. Okay, the beating of drums signify victory or some kind of celebration. And therefore, what are these animals celebrating? What are the sounds of these animals reminding the poet of? He is reminded of he's celebrating, these animals are celebrating their freedom. The slave is thinking that these sounds made by the animals, they are symbolic that these animals are free. They are celebrating their freedom, whereas he has no right to do so. Okay. So the figure of speech we find here was in the fifth line, like a glorious roll of drums is a simile where the beating of drums is being compared to the sounds of the various animals are making in this stanza. I hope this is clear. We'll move on to the next stanza. The forests with their myriad tongues shouted of liberty, and the blast of the desert cried aloud with a voice so wild and free that he started in his sleep and smiled at their tempestuous glee. Okay, so now again, here this is again a continuation of his visions which he is dreaming about. So what is the other? What are the other things which he sees in his dream? The forests with their myriad, myriad means various, many, several. Tongues here refers to voices or the noises that come from the forest. The various voices of the animals, the trees, the night, the birds. So the forest, it seems to the slave that the forest in their several voices, noises are shouting of liberty, are telling him, are expressing their freedom. Shouted of liberty means the forest is expressing its freedom. So the variety of sounds coming from the forests are suggesting freedom to the slave. So again, please write down the first line itself is a personification because the forests do not actually have tongues. And we are saying that the forests with their myriad tongues shouted of liberty. The forests are not human beings, and therefore they are shouting of liberty is a personification used here. Okay. And the blast of the desert cried aloud with a voice so wild and free. Blast means the strong winds of the desert. Blast refers to the strong, warm winds blowing in the desert. The desert is also crying aloud that it is free. It is also expressing its freedom. The wind of the desert blowing is also expressing freedom, liberty. Okay. All the elements, in short, all the elements of nature are spreading the message of freedom. Then he started because the blast of the desert, the strong wind of the desert, which was crying in a wild and free voice, it was shouting. The forests were also making a noise that the slave almost moved suddenly. Started here means moved suddenly in his sleep. He was moved in his sleep by all those noises which he could hear, the hyena, the lion, the river horse, the forest, noise of the forest, the blast of the desert, all these noises, voices expressing freedom, joy, liberty, made the slave move suddenly in his sleep, and he smiled at their tempestuous glee. Now, glee means joy, unlimited joy, at their unlimited joy. It gave him so much pleasure to hear the sounds and sights, to hear the sounds and to visualize those sights which he was going through in his dream. All those visions which he had in his dreams, it gave him so much pleasure that he smiled in his sleep because he was longing for this freedom. He had been longing for this freedom, and at least that means he had almost reached a point where he was going his soul was going to leave its body. He was almost about to die, but before his death he experienced freedom which he was longing for through all these various elements of nature. He experienced the freedom he was yearning for through his dream by visualizing and listening to all these elements of nature. This is how he wanted to be, but dream was not going to come true, and therefore before his death he saw all those things which he wanted to do. He wanted to get back to his native land. He was missing it. He loved his native land more than anything. He was missing his family. He wanted to get back to them, to see them once again, and therefore he saw them in their dream. He wanted to be free once again and ride across his kingdom, which he did in his dream. He wanted to listen to the sights and sounds of nature, which he did again. Okay, he wanted to experience the sights and sounds of nature, which he did through his dream. Okay, so now we come to the final stanza where the poet really makes the reader is almost has mixed feelings, because this last stanza talks about how the slave dies. The reader might have mixed feelings. I will come to it after we finish reading the stanza. He did not feel the driver's whip, nor the burning heat of day, for death had illumined the land of sleep, and his lifeless body lay, a worn out fetter that the soul had broken and thrown away. So he did not feel the driver's whip. Who is the driver? The driver is the person who is in charge of the slaves. He looks after the slaves, and he makes sure that they are not resting. They are always working. They are following the rules. He is the in charge. So he is the driver. Whip. A whip is a cord which is attached to a handle, and it is used for beating people or animals. So that is, he did not feel. Why the slave did not feel? In the last stanza, we are told that why he had been lying. You all know that the first stanza, the poet was talking about the physical condition of the slave. The first stanza, remember, we come to know about the slave, his physical condition, that he was lying beside the ungathered rice with a sickle in his hand. His body was bare. He had no clothes on the upper part of his body. His hair was tangled and buried in the sand. So this physical condition, in the end of at the end of the poem, the poet again brings us back. After all the dreams, the visions, the poet brings us back to the physical condition of the slave once again in the last stanza, where we come to know that now the driver or the in charge has come to know that this person has been lying, he's been sleeping, and he hits him with a whip. Okay, just imagine their condition. If they don't do their work, they were whipped. Not the burning heat of day, but the slave does not feel the pain of the whip. He does not even feel the warm heat of the sun falling on his body. Why? For death had illumined the land of sleep. Because while he was sleeping and dreaming, he had passed on to the other world. He had died. Death had illumined. Please underline, this line is also a personification. Death has been personified. That death had illumined means lightened up, brightened up the land of sleep. So illumined word is symbolic that the slave, death normally is taken as a dark thing, not a happy thing. But in the slave's case, the poet specifically uses the word illumined to tell us that the slave's life after his death had become better. It was good that he finally died, because his life while he was living was much worse than even death. So death had come to liberate the soul of the slave. So underline and write down, death has been personified. So he is dead, and in his dream, his soul breaks. His soul breaks through his body, which was tied, and he passes into the other world. So he couldn't get freedom in his lifetime, but his soul was now free and separated from his body. Death separated his soul from his body, and his lifeless body lay. Lifeless means dead body. A worn out fetter that the soul had broken and thrown away. Now, fetter is what? Fetter refers to the chains which were used to chain him up, the shackles which I referred to in the first stanza, the shackles. I think we refer to the shackles in the green portion. So his body was chained. So that is referred to a fetter, and worn out means it is useless now. It is of no use. Something that is worn out means it is useless. It is not up to the mark to be used again. So his body has been compared, his dead body has been compared to a worn out fetter, and therefore this line, a worn out fetter, is a metaphor. Please write down, it is a metaphor The dead body of the slave has been compared to a worn out fetter chain, that it has outlived its utility. It is no more useful, the chain. And similarly, the dead body of the slave was no longer useful. It was worn out, it was dead, it was, the soul had left his body, soul had been liberated, but the body which was lying there, lifeless body, was compared to those chains which can no longer chain his soul. It can only contain his body, those chains. But the soul of the slave had already left his body. Through his death, the slave's soul had broken free from the worn out chains which were tied to his body, and the soul had attained freedom which the body had been yearning for. The body of the slave had been yearning, longing for freedom, but ultimately, through death, the slave's soul, which left his body, attained freedom. Okay. So worn out fetter means the chains which had lost its utility, and the worn out fetter has been compared to the dead body of the slave, which is a metaphor because like and as has not been used. Therefore, a comparison between the slave's dead body and a worn out fetter. The dead body of the slave was also useless. Now the body of the slave was useless. Similarly, the chains which were tying his body were also useless now. They could not contain him now. Since he was dead, he did not feel the driver's whip beating him. He did not feel the heat of the sun. Death had come to liberate his soul from his body. And ultimately, he gained freedom. So, this is very, very ironic that at the end of it, the reader is somewhere happy that the slave has got freedom from his life of bondage, and at the same time, his death makes, anybody's death makes us feel sad too, that in the end he did not get justice, he did not get what he wanted, he did not get freedom. In a way, the reader feels sad for him also, and happy for him that ultimately his life, which was a struggle while he was living it, and there was no way to gain, to escape from this life for the slave, has finally come to an end. His torture, all the pain that he had suffered had finally ended for him with his death. So it is both ways. It is a mixed emotion. We are happy, we are sad. It depends on what you feel. And the poet leaves it on the reader. He evokes our emotions, and it leaves us with mixed feelings that he could not get his liberty while he was alive, and finally death only was the only escape for such slave. And this poem is focusing on a particular slave, but the poet's aim is to focus on the entire futility of the system of slavery, how brutal it was, how torturous it was to face slavery. This entire system of slavery was so bad. Okay, so the poet wants to show us this is an anti-slavery poem. Okay, sometimes poems are anti-war poems which show us how bad a war is. A war is never good. This is an anti-slavery poem which tells us about the life of one particular slave, but it focuses on the entire system of slavery that was prevalent. Okay, how it was so bad. It cannot be described in words, the system. So it is a dead, lifeless body which is tied in chains, and these chains are of no use now because the slave has attained his freedom. And death was the only escape from this system of slavery. And it is ironic that there was no other way in which the slave could attain freedom but by his death. So we have come to the end of this poem, but I will repeat the figures of speech for you again from the fifth stanza to the eighth stanza. The fifth stanza, the first line, like a blood red flag, is a simile where the flags have been compared to the bright red flamingos. Okay. The first and second line, you can see like a blood red flag is a simile. And you can explain that red flag has been compared to the flamingos that were flying. Then sixth stanza, I told you, glorious roll of drums. That is a metaphor where the sound of the animals has been compared to the beating of the drums. So that is a metaphor. Again, next stanza. Forests with their myriad tongues shouted of liberty. The forests have been personified. So it is a personification there. And the blast of the desert cried aloud. The desert is also crying aloud. So it is personified. So that is also a personification there. And then in the last final stanza, death had illumined the land of sleep. Then death is a personification. And worn out fetter is a metaphor where the dead body of the slave has been compared to the useless chains that were used to tie his body. It is again a metaphor. So thank you, children. I hope you have understood the poem, and any other questions, queries you have, we will take it up now.